I would like to now introduce our second panel of speakers, where we'll be hearing from Janice Lee with the Coalition for Community Safety and Justice, an SF-based coalition formed by CPA, CAA, CCDC, and CYC to address anti-Asian hate and violence. We'll be hearing from Pham, Youth Project Manager at Apilo, and a second-generation Vietnamese organizer dedicated towards racial solidarity and empowering young people to action. And finally, we'll also be hearing from Bill Hing, Professor of Law and Migration Studies at University of San Francisco and Professor of Asian American Studies Emeritus at UC Davis. After which we'll also be hearing about our theme screenings and our art ritual later today. May I now invite up Janice?
Good morning, everyone. My name is Janice Lee, and I'm proud to be here today representing the Coalition for Community Safety and Justice, a coalition made up of 4 organizations with over 200 years of experience within San Francisco's Chinese and broader AAPI communities. CCSJ formed because we saw what you all saw, a feeling that our communities, our people, were being targeted. And we needed to do something about it, so we formed this coalition to jointly advance programs and initiatives that directly address the harm that our communities face. We provide direct victim services to support those who are harmed. We hold city agencies and law enforcement accountable to serving our community, like expanding language access, and we build cross-racial solidarity across all marginalized communities. Because the truth is that the hate and violence that stems from anti-AAPI sentiments are not a new phenomenon, as we just heard from Reverend Pham and from Dennis. These sentiments have been and continue to be perpetuated by white America and the white supremacy that has harmed all communities of color. We know this. From the Chinese Exclusion Act, to Jim Crow laws, to the much more recent Muslim ban and beyond, it is white supremacy that is the enemy, always. And that is why we are here today, to remember this history. As AAPIs here in San Francisco, we will not ignore this country's racist past of excluding our people that has driven anti-AAPI sentiments for far too long. And we are here to say, no more. What I also want to say to you all today, too, is I'm proud to be here today as an immigrant who was born in Hong Kong, who became a US citizen, and who ran for office in 2018 and won, currently serving as the first Asian American woman to ever be on the BART board. This was in 2018. This was my way of saying, I will not be excluded. But more importantly, we must use our collective power to never allow anyone else, no other peoples, no other communities to be excluded. This fight to stop API hate must be one that is grounded in inclusion and cross-racial solidarity. And so consider this as yet another invitation for us to work together so we may honor our past generations and build a better future for the next generation. This is the work to, as the theme says, stand strong for inclusion. So thank you so much to the incredible organizers of this weekend's events. I'm really looking forward to continued events this summer, and thank you all for being here today.
Hello, good morning. My name is Pham. I work at API Legal Outreach as the Youth Project Manager. I just want to start by saying I'm floored to be in a company to share a speaking space with so many beautiful and amazing honorable speakers. So I work with youth on a daily basis, and working with youth has taught me many lessons. The most important one is that all of us, no matter our age, our experience, how long we've served in the community, our knowledge, we all have a stake in building our communities, in protecting one another, and standing up for what is truly right. When I was a young person, I had the displeasure of activating my identity, my racial identity, as I was faced with discrimination. And now when I work with youth, I get to see youth being empowered and learning what it means to be perhaps like API or Chinese American from a place where they are celebrated in their own identities. I'm up here because I want to talk about, what exclusion means. And, as the previous speakers have talked to, this is a continuation of many, it didn't start here, right? This is tensions, feelings. The Chinese Exclusion Act is one example of many of how discrimination and prejudice manifests into legislation and action and places us in material harm. We also recognize that commemoration, remembering, and honoring can't be just a standalone event. And that's why in the following months, we will have continuing events, and I would like to invite you all as community members, any youth that you might be, share a space with in your families or organizations. We plan to have a follow-up community workshop, facilitated discussion, talking about the legacy of Chinese exclusion, but more than that, how talking about racial solidarity and how truly our communities can work with one another, understanding and unpacking how racial discrimination, again, starts as just maybe words or behaviors, and it manifests into, again, how it really impacts us. So this will happen Saturday, June 18th, here locally in SF Chinatown at CMAC from 1 to 3 p.m. We'll have more events. However you found your way through here, you can learn more about more details about the event. But again, thank you so much for allowing me to be here to share more, and I hope that you all can make it. Thank you.
對唔住，我要講英文。I should have invited my 3-year-old granddaughter to come here and translate for me. Because I'm not lying. She is much more fluent in Cantonese than I am. She goes to school out at Wamei, out on 19th and Judah. Some of you may not know this, but every day, Immigration and Customs Enforcement, or ICE, is required to detain more than 40,000 people in ICE detention by law. And it's only because of the pandemic that it was reduced by half. But every day there's still 20,000 people in Immigration and Customs Enforcement detention. That all started with the Chinese. First at the Mokok, the wooden shelter on the bay here, and then at Angel Island. My father was detained in 1915 for 3 months. And I'll be honest with you, he was detained with good reason, because he had gachi, he had fake papers. He claimed to be the son of a US citizen, but it was all fraudulent. My mother was detained about 10 years later, in 1926, for a week, fortunately. That means that my parents were technically both undocumented immigrants. That means that by virtue of me being born here, I gained birthright citizenship because of a case called Wong Kim Ark. And Wong Kim Ark's great-great-great-granddaughter is sitting in the audience today. Unfortunately, I've had the experience of witnessing the detention that goes on today. By court order, I officially represent the federal court in Los Angeles for detention inspections. And in Dilley, Texas, in a room about half this size, twice a day, there are women with infant children on their laps that are being read their rights. The big difference is that unlike my 2 granddaughters who are happy and able to play, the children on the laps of the women in detention are lethargic. They have no energy. They have no fun. Then, a few years ago, I went to the Border Patrol inspection station in Clint, Texas, where I helped to interview 200 children who don't have their parents with them, from the ages of 3 to 17, 3 months to 17. Afterwards, you can ask me about the 3-month-old. The older children, they were only supposed to be kept for 72 hours. They were all kept for more than 4 weeks. When we went to inspect, the older children we noticed were cleaner. The younger children were dirty. Why? We found out later they were responsible for bathing themselves in a public shower area. So the little children are not going to wash themselves, but the 16, 17-year-olds were able to clean themselves. There was coughing. There was a flu epidemic. Ladies and gentlemen, that is the United States of America today, detaining women and children on their own. And it all started with the detention.